Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Believe it or not, this particular sermon is a difficult one to construct. Where it comes in the liturgy, the larger amount of people than I usually speak before, and most importantly, you all are coming from very different places on your journey. Some of you might be coming from a dark place, others from a very joyous, light place. It makes it difficult to pinpoint the exact thing I could talk about that will stir everybody in this room. You see the challenge, right? It's difficult to figure out how exactly I speak to such a diverse crowd of people and really get them in their kishkas. You know that phrase? You know that word? To really get them so they feel it in their kishkas. What could I possibly talk about that could get to all of you, regardless of where you're from, where your journey has taken you, so you'll feel it right here? And so I've decided I want to talk to you about my favorite coffee and donut shop. In Los Angeles, at the intersection of Lancashire, Camarillo, and Vineland Boulevards, a tri-signal intersection, there is a donut and coffee shop. I lived across the street for many years, and so I had a morning routine. I'm a man who likes routine. Maybe that's what led me into a spiritual sort of life. I like to have the same routine day in and day out. So every day, I went to this donut shop for my coffee. Now let me describe the scene for you so you could really start to feel it. The name of the donut shop was Donut. I imagine that they paid for the sign by letter, so it was just Donut. But be assured, inside they had plural donuts. When you walked in, you were confronted by a display case. Interesting about the display case of a fine establishment like Donut was that there were a competition going on among the fingerprints on the outside of the glass and the oil and glaze smudge marks on the inside of the glass. I'm not sure if they ever cleaned it, but it didn't matter. When you were there, when you pointed to your donut, it was less of a choice and more of a guess at what you were going to get. Now, you might be saying, before I describe more of this scene, you might have two questions I can imagine are rummaging through your soul right now. Number one, Rabbi, don't you think it's a little cruel to be talking to a group of people who are fasting about donuts and who are starting to get that coffee headache about coffee? And my response to you would be, point taken. Number two question might be, Rabbi, I cannot imagine with a Rebbitzin that you are married to, like Brooke, filled with class and dignity, that she would ever let you walk into establishment as you are describing. And I will tell you this is in an era of my life called PB, pre-Brooke. I was living a more base sort of life, a little bit on the da-base sort of existence. And so this was the place I went to every morning, but I was not interested in the donuts, I will have you. It was the coffee. The coffee. Now, this was in an era where you did not talk to people when you went into these type of places. There was no one to ask for a frappa what of. You did not do any of that. You went in, you put your single dollar, yes, a single dollar, on the counter. No Venmo or credit cards either. There was no phone to scan. The dollar on the table, you slid it halfway, and then you turned to your left. And there it was, a counter. There were 12 hot plates. And on each of the hot plates was a fishbowl filled with black liquid. Every one of the fishbowl had a plastic handle and a lip on it that had a spout. Now, there was a very intricate color design on these fish bowls that helped to communicate a tremendous amount of information. The color black indicated that that black liquid was filled with energy and joy and fun. And so you took a black-topped fish bowl and you got your fun brown liquid. Now, there was another color too, orange. If you took, Boo is right, if you took the orange fish bowl, well, you got a little bit less of an energetic, fun day ahead of you, didn't you? There were 11 fish bowls with black lids, and there was one sad one in the corner that had the orange top of the fish bowl. Now, I do have to add another color. Not all of the tops were black. Some of them were a dark brown, and that communicated to you that that fish bowl was incredibly old, and the black had patinaed to that darker brown color. I would go up. You would approach the hot plates, and on each of the hot plates told you what fun experience you were about to get into. Because there were flavors, my friends. There was Colombian, there was dark roast, there was all types of things. French roast. This was very international, this place. French roast, hazelnut. It had all the coffees of the day in their fish bowls properly marked. Now, of course, you couldn't count on that because if two people approached the counter and grabbed their different fish bowls, poured their coffee, and then went to go put it back, it was sort of like a musical chairs experience. You just put it back on whatever hot plate you could find. So who knows what flavor coffee you were getting? And let's be honest, they were all the same coffee, weren't they? You know they were. So you got that. Now, of course, in addition, they had all the creams. All the creams. And by all the creams, I mean 3. There were 3 creams. There was the half and half. We don't know what half of what it was, but it was called half and half. The next was hazelnut. I don't know what kind of nuts those are, but they are clearly hazel. And then, of course, you had the beloved, the greatest of all, French vanilla. And those were the 3 creamers that existed back in those days. I don't care about your snickerdoodles. Those didn't exist. 3 creams, that's all you got. Oh, and by the way, we had not yet learned how to milk an oat or a soy, so there was none of that. So you had your 3 creams, and of course, I am a traditionalist. I am a perfectionist. So I come into my donut shop, Columbia with hazelnut, forget it. French roast with French vanilla. Now, of course, you had to do a 2/3, 1/3 ratio of coffee to cream to get rid of the flavor of the coffee so you could actually drink it. And so that's what you had. So you'd go up to the counter, you'd slide your dollar. You would then get the white, thick-lipped styrofoam cup. Oh, I meant to tell you, this was also PM in era of my life. This was pre-Myrtle and the greeting group. So I would take the styrofoam cup, and I would then fill it with my coffee. By the way, interesting fact, small, medium, large cups were all the same size. So you took your styrofoam white cup, you filled it with your brown liquid, you put copious amounts of the 3 types of creamers you were able to choose from, you put your lid on, and then you walked out. Never spoke to a single person for the years I had this routine every single morning. Every morning. Soon I met the Rebbitzin. I remember how she gently communicated to me that I might need to change my lifestyle when she looked in the back of my car and she said, "You have a lot of styrofoam cups back here." It was a wake-up call for me. But all this changed. Now, interestingly about this memory, I could describe the place, but as I said, the dollar, the cup, the coffee, the leave, there was nothing else that I did. I didn't talk to anybody there. I didn't know anybody behind the counter. I had no, "Hey, Stan, hey, Phil." There was none of that. I didn't know anybody, and I had no interactions in that place. I got the same coffee, second row, second to the left, and the same creamer every single day. And then I went off to work. But it all changed. And I have one memory other than the place that stands out from that donut coffee shop. My dad got sick with leukemia. I had a month that I found out he had leukemia until he passed away at the City of Hope Hospital. And I remember the next morning, bloodshot eyes, I wanted just a little routine. The last month I'd been sleeping in the waiting room at the hospital, so I just wanted some semblance of normalcy. My dad had not been buried yet. The funeral was still a few days away. So I went to Donuts. I walked past the fingerprint display case. I went to the fish bowls of coffee, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I couldn't figure out what coffee to take. I couldn't make a choice between the plethora of creamers that were available to me. Like a cosmic aura, somebody actually approached me for the first time in that place. It wasn't because of the way I looked or that I was in the way. My neighbor, the first time I'd ever seen her in that donut shop. Could you imagine why? I can't imagine why she didn't go in there often. But the first time I'd ever seen her in there was that day. And she came up to me and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "My dad died yesterday." And it was the most uncomfortable of conversations from there. I think it was more of like "Oh, okay, well, have a good day," and she left. And that was it. And I didn't get my coffee, and I walked out empty-handed. I might have left the $1 on the counter. I'm not sure. Shiva was interesting for my father. I didn't grow up in a religious home. I was starting rabbinical school. I was very happy that my dad knew that I was going to go and become a rabbi. But I hadn't started yet. And our family and friends were not religious. So Shiva didn't have a whole lot of religious sort of language to it, didn't have set up. I wasn't experienced with it. I don't remember people saying the common greeting that you're supposed to, or the common exit. Hamakom yenachem etem betok shar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted with all the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. You see, Shiva is an interesting place. Shiva is a place in which everything is turned upside down. You invite people into your house not to take care of them, they take care of you. They're in your space. They're on the nice furniture. You're on the little chair on the floor. It's just sort of an interesting upside down sort of world. I have one memory only from Shiva. I remember my dad's friend, Dr. Burnham. He told us that my father had been suffering with a blood disorder for 2 years prior to being diagnosed with leukemia, and he didn't tell us. And so I found out a month before he passed. I was filled with rage. I was so angry. I was so angry at Dr. Burnham. I was so angry at my father. It was such a difficult, upside-down sort of moment. And in that place, I had no place. And in the places that I knew as my place, I couldn't find my way. It didn't make any rhyme or reason. The coffee labels made no sense. The creamers were not regular to me. My father's home wasn't filled with words of love. They were filled with words that angered me, made me frustrated. Hamakom yenachem etem betok avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted with all the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. It's a strange phrase. Have you ever heard it? Have people said it to you? I make a point of saying it at funerals. But I'm not sure if we are accustomed in our community to saying that when we leave a Shiva, when we turn towards the mourner on the small chair or whatever chair they're sitting in. And rather than say, "See you later," or "Have a good day," we have prepared words because those moments are uncomfortable. I wish my neighbor had something more prepared. It wasn't her fault. sprung it on her. She was just trying a new coffee place. And I made it wildly uncomfortable for her. Trust me, she would have learned how uncomfortable the place was in general over time. Hamakom yenachem etem b'tok avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. I've been looking it up in preparation for what I wanted to say today. You need to know that our rabbis are the creators of what we call cut and paste. Have you ever experienced cut and paste before? Let's be honest, it's everybody's favorite thing to do. If I get an email or I have a document, it's so much better if I could cut and paste rather than write it myself. You heard my comment earlier, right? Writing myself is a little tough. So therefore, I really enjoy the cut and paste. The rabbis were the inventors of cut and paste. Our prayer book, our Machzor, is filled with cut and paste. They were very uncomfortable, the sages. Very uncomfortable of making up words to praise God when there is an entire Bible, thousands of sentences said by people who had the closest of relationships to God: Amos, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Joshua, Aaron, Miriam, Rebecca, Rachel, Sarah, and of course Moses. When you have the dictation of all those conversations, why would you use anything other than what was said before? And so our prayer book is just a masterclass in cut and paste, journey throughout the Bible and rabbinic literature. But hamakom yenachem etem betoch avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim, this phrase seems to exist nowhere. Now, pieces of it do, by the way. Avlei Tzion, the mourners of Zion, the mourners of Jerusalem. Isaiah talks about that. Jeremiah will make allusions to that. These are common sort of phrases. Hamakom yenachem etchem. May God comfort you amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. That phrase seems to have come out of nowhere. It seems to have come out of nowhere and is now the language we say when we're in that dark moment, when we're in the home or we're at the gravesite, or when we're in that moment when we need to say something, but we can't come up with the words. Hamakom is a strange name for God. I know I'm not translating that like that, but technically it is, may the place, may God comfort you. Hamakom means literally the place. It's a location, a place wherever that would be. It harkens to the story of Jacob and his famous ladder. When he woke up from his dream, what did he say? God was in this hamakom, in this place, and I didn't even know it. Isn't that the wish that we have for all of us who are in pain and suffering and in darkness? Don't you pray that that is who is sitting next to the hostages in those dark tunnels? Don't you pray hamakom is there, keeping with them, guarding them, giving them the hope to wake up one more day, possibly be redeemed? When you're in that dark place, you don't feel God's presence. It's very easy to have God's presence feel so distant. And so what you look for is routine. You look for signs. You look for something that'll tell you it's going to be okay. And our tradition tells us that the way towards God is Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. The other people who have been on your journey, who are on your journey, who know what your journey is all about, who relate to the struggle, the pain that you have. Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim, the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Don't look further than the people sitting around you. Don't look further than the people who have come into your home or sitting on your nice furniture without the plastic down, I may mind you. They're going in your fridge. They're upending your kitchen. Look no farther for God's presence than that, than those people. The pain of my father was so difficult. Like all of our suffering, all of our pain, all of our losses. I met Brooke a month later. 1 month later. She had suffered her own loss. Her father had passed just 6 months before. Her mother was about to pass. And so not only did I meet her, but she met me. Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. I started rabbinical school 1 month after my dad passed. And my first day of rabbinical school, we were doing the kind of introductions. You know how that goes when you first start a program. We were doing the introductions. We were meeting everybody. We were getting into our classes. We noticed that there was one person missing. We were informed that one person, his father, passed away that week. And he was going to miss school because he was honoring Shiva for his father in Texas, where he was from, and he will be joining us a week later. Very sad for him. We never met him. We don't know who this young man is, but when he gets here, we'll be as open and warm as possible. The dean of the school called me into her office, and she said, Rabbi, I wasn't Rabbi at the time. I guess you call me Laurence. Laurence, I've been talking about myself too long for a long time, my friends. She said, Laurence, Jay Siegel is coming to school. You heard about his situation. You seem to be an expert on this dead dad thing. She said it better than that. Would you take him under your wing and show him the ropes, where he could find a minyan to say Kaddish, whatever he might need? And so Jay and I became best of friends throughout rabbinical school. We lived in Israel together. We joined the YMCA in the middle of Israel to work out. We were working out together. We studied together. We had Havruta. And what's so interesting about those days, and I was reflecting about what I was going to say today, was that I don't even know Jay's father's name. I never heard it. We never talked about our fathers. I shared with him one story, a dream I had about my father. And that was it. We never talked about our mourning. We never talked about our loss. We never talked about the pain we were having. We just were together. And we had crazy, fun adventures in rabbinical school, and we learned, and we made lots of jokes. Jay made lots of jokes. But we were Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. We were just on a journey side by side. We didn't need to talk about it. We didn't need to share. We didn't need a shoulder to cry on all that much. But we knew it was there if we needed it. Hamakom yenachem etem b'tok Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We have been on a journey. We have been in darkness this last year. We have experienced what it feels like to walk into coffee shops and nobody seems to know how to interact with us. Nobody knows what to say to us. Our routine feels upended. We don't know what flavor of coffee we drink or how much creamer to put in. It felt so out of sorts. And I know for many of us, having others on this journey with us, whether we talk about our pain or not, has made all the difference. All the difference. It's easy to think that we don't need community until we need community. Hamakom yenachem etem b'tok Avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. My friends, we have much work to do in this world. There is much more pain that will be experienced, and it will be experienced by us and by those that we love. That is just the way of life. That is the way of our life. especially as Jews. We need to have each other more and more as we make our way forward in these days. By doing so, you don't just strengthen yourself, you strengthen our Jewish world, and you make the path forward one that we could walk, make decisions, and make a better future for all of us. Shana Tova, Umetuka.